Our season in review videos are going to continue on here today with the Buffalo Sabres. And as for the Sabres, it was once again another year of just not good. Again, like it felt like, and we're going to go through what we've been doing for the whole series, but it feels like 2 years ago they were so close. They were right there. The light was at the end of the tunnel, and maybe they weren't going to make it the following season, but even still, they were going to be a pretty damn good team. And let's just start off with that. They went 42, 33, and 7 in 2022-23. They had 91 points. They were 20th. They finished just 1 point back of a playoff spot, and they were nearly in there for the first time. And at the time, it was like 12 years. Just again, like you felt after that year, seeing Devin Levi, seeing Tage Thompson, seeing how the overall team really improved, you really thought that a future was near and that they were going to make the playoffs that following year, or at least within the next couple of years after that. And since then, it has been getting progressively worse and worse. In 23-24, they went 39, 37, and 6 for 84 points. They were 22nd in the NHL. Again, just a little bit of a fall off. It wasn't like a drastic fall off, but it was still a fall off. Every player on the team, it felt like had a down year. It kind of did feel like that was the more realistic outcome, and that this team wasn't necessarily that close to becoming a contender or at least making the playoffs, but they were still in the vicinity. They were still getting closer. And then this past year, everything just falls apart yet again. 36, 39, and 7 for 79 points. They were 26th in the NHL this past year. Just another year where they were falling off. And again, I really don't know what to say anymore, because it feels like it's the same thing every year with Buffalo. It's like watching the Titanic every single time. The ship still sinks when it hits the iceberg. Like it feels like the same thing every single year for the Buffalo Sabres. And I don't know how you fix it. Being completely honest with you, I don't know how you fix it moving forward. They scored 269 goals. They allowed 289 for a minus 20 difference, which isn't bad. I will say that. They were 23, 15, and 3 at home. They were 13, 24, and 4 on the road. And once again, a lot of their numbers were pretty pedestrian. Actually, they definitely scored at a little bit of a better pace than they originally were going to be, and a lot of that lies on Tage Thompson. But a 3.23 goals for per game, which was ranked 10th, so it was top 10. That's pretty nice. Their goals against 3.50, 29th, and that's bottom 5. You can't win with that bad of a goals against. You can't. You simply can't make the playoffs. I think goaltending was a big factor in why Buffalo wasn't really able to do much here in this season, to be honest. Their power play and their PK was again pedestrian. 18.8% on the power play, which was 24th, and 76.3 on the kill, which was 23rd. So again, just it's mid at best. It's honestly below mid. It's just below average, close to bad at that point. And I really don't know how you fix it, because I've said so many things with Buffalo. I've been saying it for literally forever that this will be the year they get out of the tunnel. This will be the year where they finally break through. Haven't seen that year just yet. And to be honest with you, I don't think they're there for another at least 2 to 3 years. Like, I'm being completely honest. Unless if we see, massive improvements from Devin Levi, and, the offense can start really improving, and just everything kind of stays locked down here, and, they get better defensively. I don't think this team makes the playoffs next year or even the following year after that. Like, this is going to be probably another, again, like it's going to be like year 16 or 17 when they finally probably break through. And that is just, it's devastating, honestly. It's just unbelievable. And you got to reach a point where it's like, are they really going to have a future here in Buffalo? Like, I know that, the Pagulas own the team. They don't want to give them up. But even still, like, nobody goes to those games anymore. It's really unfortunate. And for a good fan base, too, that has been pretty much drained to nothing at this point. It really does suck. Now, looking at the leading scorers, I'll stop with the little somber story about Buffalo, although it feels like that's what it is all the time. Their leading scorer was Tage Thompson with 76 games played, 44 goals, which was first on the team, 28 assists for 72 points, which is also first on the team. Thompson had a big, good bounce back year. I think this is more of the realistic outcome we're going to see from him. He's not like a 100-point guy anymore. He might be an, at best, 85, 90-point scorer, but I really don't think he's anything more than that, to be honest with you. I think he's kind of peaked at where we think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be much better, to be brutally honest with you guys, but I could be wrong. I think he's definitely the best player on the team, but overall, he still had a pretty damn good year, regardless of that. J.J. Peterka, 77 games played, 27 goals, 41 assists for 68 points. I still think about 2020, it's a damn shame that, well, not really a damn shame. It's good for Buffalo, but it's a shame for all the 32 other teams that picked beforehand that he dropped to Buffalo at that spot, because this guy's a really talented player. Again, had 30 goals this year, and I think his sophomore season in the NHL, that really is something to think about. And I think this guy has a really bright future here in this league. And I'm wondering, like, it might not even be with Buffalo. Hearing the trade rumors that we're hearing right now, I know not everything is concrete, but even still, it's concerning, some of the things that we're hearing here on the market for a guy like Peterka for sure. Rasmus Dahlin was third in scoring. This was, I believe, his first year as the captain, second year as the captain. I really can't remember, to be honest with you. I'm just so blinded by how bad Buffalo was. 73 games played, 17 goals, 51 assists, which is first on the team for 68 points. I thought overall Dahlin had a decent year. Again, I thought, the whole team could have been better, but Dahlin wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I thought he had a good year defensively. He's the only backbone on what is a just so dysfunctional Buffalo Blue Line, to be honest with you. Alex Tuch was fourth in scoring, 82 games played, 36 goals, 31 assists, 67 points. He had 36 goals. That's good. He was second in the team in scoring. However, there's rumors that he might not want to be there either. So it really sucks with how underperforming this team's success has been the last couple of years and just the last century, honestly. It really does kind of suck with what Buffalo has not been able to put together. Just not, like, it feels like they might be going back to square one. I really hope not, but it with some of the things that I've heard, it does kind of feel that way, but let's hope for the best. Jason Zucker was a positive this past year. They signed him to a contract in the offseason. He turned out to be a good acquisition. 73 games played, 21 goals, 32 assists for 53 points. Not that bad of a year, a good year from like a middle six type of player. The same can be said for Ryan McLeod, who had 79 games played, 20 goals, 33 assists for 53 points. That trade for Matthew Savoy, it definitely, like, Buffalo obviously is winning that trade right now because Savoy hasn't really even played in the NHL that much. But again, I do think that, like, those are the kind of moves you do need to make to be a contender. You need to trade away some of your prospects for, guys who can help you out in the current state. And I think that was one of the moves that was criticized at the time, but I think Kevin Adams did a very good job at that. I'll give him that. He did a very good job in that specific move, I would say. Owen Power up next then, 79 games played, 7 goals, 33 assists for 40 points. Power, there's definitely room to improve. There absolutely is. I think that that's something we're going to see here in the coming seasons. Again, he still is a little bit young. I think this is only like his third season in the NHL, so I'm not going to be too harsh on him just yet, but overall, there needs to be some improvement there from the back end just as a whole, to be honest with you. Jack Quinn, 74 games played, 15 goals, 24 assists for 39 points. Quinn wasn't bad. Again, I just don't think he's what he was projected to be at 8th overall. He might just be like a 40, 50-point guy at this point. I think that's what a lot of these players are really projected to be. Bowen Byram is an interesting name. We'll get into him in just a moment. 82 games played, 7 goals, 31 assists for 38 points. I thought Byram was okay. He's asking for a lot of money, though, and the money that I'm seeing him ask for, I'm like, I don't really like that. So we're going to have to see here what happens with that. But overall, I think Byram might find himself out of Buffalo here in the coming months, honestly. And then Josh Norris, who was with Ottawa for a little bit, has been traded to the team for Dylan Cousins. We'll get into that in just a moment here as well. 56 games played, 21 goals, 14 assists for 35 points. Norris is slightly concerning just with his injuries. His health really is a little bit of a concern. It's not like I still think he's going to be a very good player, but the health is obviously a concern there. He hasn't really been the same from what he was prior to the injury, but I guess obviously we'll see. 35 points in 56 games played. It does take a year maybe to kind of get back into the swing of things. Maybe next year he's a lot better. I guess we'll see. And then you look at the goaltending. You had Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who led scoring, 24, 24, and 5 with a 3.20 goals against and a .887 save percentage. I thought Luukkonen, it wasn't a good year. It was a pretty down year for him. I thought things could have been a lot better. Again, it wasn't all on him. The defensive play, as I said, was pretty brutal for a lot of this season, but the goaltending was not that pretty. And you look at the goals against, and it kind of backs that up. They were bottom four, in the NHL in terms of that stat. So again, that definitely needs to improve there as well. James Reimer was their next guy, 10, 10, and 2 with a 3.04 and a .897. I believe James Reimer is retiring. I think I heard that correctly. So best of wishes to him in retirement. He's been around for so long. I'm surprised he's even playing at his age. He's such a legend. I like James Reimer a lot. He's been to a lot of teams too, especially like Detroit. He was in San Jose for a little bit. Toronto, was with Carolina all those years ago. Man, Reimer's been around a lot. Devin Levi then was their third guy. I think it's worth mentioning him. 2-7 this year, a 4.12 and a .872. I really don't know how to grasp Devin Levi. He was pretty good in the AHL, but I feel like he might be another year away from the number one position. But maybe they give him more games next year, and maybe they give him the nod. Who knows? We'll see how he plays. Again, like a lot can change between now and training camp, so I'm optimistic to see what's going to happen. But overall, I'm not very confident in Levi being the starter next year. You look at the trades that this Sabres team made, they didn't make a ton, I'm going to be honest with you. The biggest one they made was the Dylan Cousins trade, where they traded Cousins, Dennis Gilbert, and a 2026 second-round pick over to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Josh Norris and Jacob Bernard Docker. So overall, they made, I think that trade it's a win for Ottawa with how Cousins played in Ottawa. It's without a doubt, it's a win for the Sens. I don't hate it though for Buffalo. I think Norris can still be something, but again, as I said, the injuries are a concern for me. So that's what I'm kind of really thinking about here when I'm talking about this deal. I'm a little bit concerned about how the injuries are going to play out and everything about that. But I think overall, it doesn't look like a terrible deal for both teams, but I think Ottawa's the winner there, clearly. And then the other trade that they made was a very minor one. They acquired they traded Henri Jokiharju to the Boston Bruins in exchange for a 26 fourth-round pick. So not a huge trade there. It's a depth defenseman move, but you see a lot of those deals at the deadline, but Buffalo didn't really make anything that significant besides that trade. A little bit of a look into the American Hockey League here up next. You have the Rochester Americans, who went with a record of 42, 22, 5-3 for 92 points. They were actually 6th in the AHL that year. They got a first-round bye. They defeated Syracuse in the second round, and then they obviously lost to Laval in round 3 in 5 games. It was a close 5-game series, but Laval obviously came out as the team on top. The leading scorers for this Rochester Americans team was Isaac Rosen, who led the way. 61 games played, 28 goals, 27 assists for 55 points. I thought Rosen overall had a good year, honestly, and we'll get into him in just a moment. I don't want to go terribly in depth with him. Brett Murray, 66 games played, 27 goals, 22 assists, 49 points. Zachary Metza, 69 games played, 7 goals, 39 assists for 46 points. Lucas Rosek, excuse me if I'm butchering these names, 72 games played, 7 goals, 35 assists for 42 points. Cale Clegg, 69 games played, 10 goals, 29 assists for 39 points there as well. So that was the Rochester Americans scoring. Again, it was a good team. You had some good young players down there mixed with some solid veterans who have played games in the NHL consistently. I thought it was a good team, and I think that definitely there's a future there in Buffalo that I think is a bit underrated when it comes to Rochester. So hope for the best there next season for sure. You look at the pipeline. The prospect pipeline for the Sabres has changed a lot over the years. I wouldn't say it's as strong as it was, but it definitely still is pretty decent. You have Consta Hellenius, who led the way or leads the way in prospects for me. 65 games played in Rochester this past year, 14 goals, 21 assists for 35 points. It was his first year in North America playing hockey. I'm not terribly concerned about his overall development. I think that a 35-point year in 65 games played is expected from a young rookie. It's not surprising there for me whatsoever. Noah Ostland up next then. 45 games played, 19 goals, 17 assists for 36 points. He played 8 games in the NHL this past year as well. Ostland, I thought, is an all-right prospect. He's not going to be as big as, maybe some of the other players, but he did get some time in the NHL. I think that is worth something. Maybe could be a third-line player in the future. It's not impossible. Anton Wahlberg, who is also in the AHL. You're going to notice that 4 of the 5 of these are in the American Hockey League. 63 games played, 11 goals, 19 assists for 30 points. I thought Wahlberg had a solid year there. I think he's a defenseman, I believe, in that back end with Rochester. And then you have the only guy who was not in the AHL, Adam Kleber, with a 33 games played, 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points in the NCAA. So, again, Kleber, little bit of a lesser offensively touted guy. Could be decent playing out there in the NCAA. I don't hate him whatsoever. And then again, as I mentioned, Isaac Rosen, 61 games played, 28 goals, 27 assists for 55 points. Had 8 games in the NHL this past year. Rosen could be a full-time NHLer next year, depending on what the team looks like out of training camp. We'll have to see, obviously, but I'm optimistic for him. That's the guy that I'm probably the most optimistic about outside of Hellenius. But I guess obviously we shall see what their development looks like here moving forward. You look at the draft capital for the Buffalo Sabres when you look in terms of the future. They have a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick. They have 2 fourths. One of them belongs to Minnesota. A fifth, a sixth, and 3 sevenths. One of them's their own. Another is Nashville, and another one of them is Washington's as well. So above all, they have some draft capital to work with there. I feel like the reason why they don't have a boatload of picks is because, and again, I think we heard this at the deadline, and I said this in videos, like they don't want draft picks. They want future or current right now assets. They want players they can use right now or guys who are young that they can use in the future. They're tired of, getting these first-round picks and, drafting these players because that's obviously not working out. You got to make trades to improve the team in that kind of way. And I think that's what Buffalo is starting to realize here. But I will say this, the excuse of palm trees in that is not good enough because the Edmonton Oilers are, I know the Oilers have McDavid, but even still, they live in the cold land of Edmonton. You have the Winnipeg Jets, who were first in the NHL this past year. They are the most undesirable place to go. Sorry, no disrespect to Winnipeg, but they were voted that by the players, besides Buffalo, I guess. All these other teams can do it. Why can't you? That's my honest question to Kevin Adams. Now you look at the UFAs and RFAs. It's a short list for the UFAs. It's only James Reimer, and I think Reimer is retiring, as I said. And then your RFAs, you have J.J. Peterka, Jack Quinn, Ryan McLeod, Bowen Byram, and Jacob Bernard Docker. So you have some real decisions there to make in terms of like this team moving forward with some of these players. Is Peterka going to stick around? I would say yeah. I would say Quinn likely sticks around. I think you're going to have to keep all 4, maybe 5 of these guys around. But I think overall, you're going to see some big contracts be dealt out here and some decisions need to be made with guys like maybe, Peterka, for example, with the trade rumors. But overall, it's going to be a very interesting offseason in Buffalo. It almost always is, as they will try and get back to the playoffs here next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. I greatly appreciate it. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.